Well, you heard Joe. Go ahead and ask him some questions if you have any.
Oh, I got a question. Well, I got an addition as a suggestion. I also used Stack Overflow jobs, which is really nice. So if you're in a situation when you have to do a work visa, like I was a couple of years ago, it also filters out jobs that offer visa, doing the visa for you and relocation. So that's kind of nice. And it also has filters for salary and all that. And actually, that's how I got this job using the Stack Overflow jobs. So that's a good resource to find about jobs.
Yeah, thanks for adding that. I use Stack Overflow jobs as well.
Yeah, and I'll just add that I got my current job through AngelList. So if anybody is not familiar with that, definitely go check it out. It's a good way to find startup opportunities. And I got that a few months after I started attending the ReactJS meetup like a year and a half ago. So I had experienced a lot of that same kind of frustration with different interviews, and I was just kind of casting a net as widely as I could. So there are a lot of good resources out there that some small companies might not get as many applicants, and you can kind of stand out if you work hard.
I think that's angellist.co, if memory serves.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's worth it. There's a lot of startups in there. I'll add something too. I had, when I interviewed at Columall, this made me nervous for a while when I started working there, but they didn't have a technical part of my interview at all. So they just met me and talked. And then they went over like the send home work they had done, like the coding challenge kind of thing. And I had blown it. Like there was some recursion in there that it was wrong. And this guy, Jay, sat across the table from me. He was like, so your coding challenge was wrong 100% of the time. I was like, oh, that's right. I think I forgot to push one more commit. This one curly brace is in the wrong spot. He was like, oh, yeah, that's right. So I guess that was my whole technical interview. And then I remember asking maybe a few months later, like I was a little bit nervous, you know what I mean? Because I was like, how do you even know? Because I had sat in by that point like 4 interviews with the team, and everybody else had a technical interview except for me. So one of the things that set me apart when I was interviewing, come to find out, was that I had a blog and I had written a ton of stuff on the blog, and it was just stuff that I was encountering. Like I made a jQuery loading button this week and it was awesome. And then, I encountered this keyword in JavaScript. Oh my Lord. And I basically, when I went to the Iron Yarn in Austin, we had a weekly assignment to do one blog each week. And it was really helpful, and I still can go back and look at it. And I mean, since then I've done like, a total of 3 blog posts in the last 2 years, but still it's really helpful because then people can find you online and look at the things that you have experienced. And some of them might be things that you were really good at, and some of them might be things that you learned a lot from that you kind of failed at. I would suggest doing that. And I've given that advice to a lot of people to meet up. I hope some have taken it.
If they weren't expensive, I would.
A blog expensive?
Yeah, I can get with you on that, because mine, it's a Gatsby blog, and I'm just using Netlify. So,
yeah, Leslie's on here too. Shout out to Netlify.
Netlify, free tier. It's pretty generous.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
I love Netlify.
I'll co-sign Gatsby with Netlify.
Yeah, let's help out William on that. That's good.
I've got some advice. I blogged about it, so look it up if you want to. But the key point for me was you're interviewing there. They want to know everything about you. You need to make sure you know enough about them to make sure you really want to work there. They're going to give you a code technical review. They're going to make sure that you can code. But I would ask, can I see your code? Because I literally started a job after an interview process, and the code was a complete disaster. It's literally the worst code I've ever seen in my life. And it was just an absolute nightmare. So ask, and maybe that'd be an opportunity for them to see that you're curious and that you're willing to learn, and they give you a chance to see, do I want to work on this for 2,000 hours per year? And you very well may not want to.
I just went to Justin's blog for the first time in a while. He's got a lot of posts. He's really helping a lot of people out there. I had a piggyback to that for Justin. when I interviewed at Call it's a telecommunications company, right? We use messaging for phones and text messages. So my question like that was to the president about like, what do you do when the FCC shuts this down? You know, like when you're considered spam. And he had, I mean, that got him fired up in a good way, right? He was like PO'd for greatness, like Ray Lewis, and just went on like, no, man, we go to Washington and we take care of all our advocacy throughout the. So I was like, when I was interviewing for them, right, for that part, I was really taken aback, like, oh, like these guys are really, really what they say they are. They know what they're talking about.
This is actually interesting because I should have asked if they had any test coverage before I joined in. But anyway, I got to add it up when I was there. There's a good resource that just came out a couple of weeks ago. It's called interviewing.io. And you can test interview with people at Google, Netflix, or all of the large companies, and some of the smaller companies for free. So they will actually call you up and do a fake interview and do the questions that they actually do for the real interviews, and then they'll give you feedback. So they have free and paid plans. So that's kind of nice because you can train up before you actually do any interviews. So that just seems a little bit an interesting resource to get your game on the interview.
I have a question. Let me turn on my video. Oh, I didn't realize I look like such a vampire since it's kind of dark in here. So for recent boot camp graduates, I see a lot of people experiencing the feeling of imposter syndrome. This is kind of more of like an emotional question, I guess, or like how to deal with having those feelings of like feeling like, oh, I don't know much. I don't think I have the confidence to like go out and interview right now.
Oh, I've 100% dealt with that in the past year plus. So you're not alone.
Right, and I see it a lot with boot camp graduates, not so much with like people with like CS degrees and stuff like that. Because I mean, when you take a boot camp course, it's like you learn a whole lot in the span of like 3 months. Yeah, and with self-taught as well. And then you don't go too much
in my boot camp.
Huh?
Mine was 6 months. That's how long mine lasted.
Oh, nice. And
yeah, it was still a part-time program, not a full-time program, so that was why.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I can speak on that. First of all, that's a part of the process. You know, that imposter syndrome in this field is always there. There's always something that's gonna make you uncomfortable. But for me personally, my team lead actually told me later on after they hired me, he said that you had the least amount of experience, but you had the most relevant experience. So the things that we learned specifically, like since I was using React, using Redux on a regular basis, using a design library, these were things that some of the CS graduates that they interviewed, they just didn't have that real world experience with those technologies. So just remembering that I'm sure that you learn modern and some of the more updated technologies that are being used at companies. So you may actually have more relevant experience than a lot of other people, you know, so just keep that in mind, keep working, keep networking, and understand that feeling is a part of the process.
Yeah, and I went to a boot camp too. I was a band director for like 15 years and then switched. And some of that was like, you know, I would tell my story, like one of Joe's first bullet points, right? And people were like, whoa, like, what are you talking about? But also I knew that was like, I was a former teacher, so education is important to me. I knew that was the beginning of my journey. So it wasn't like, and you know, the Iron Yard, they told us this a lot too, where I went to code school, like you basically get done with those 3 months and that's like, you now have a set of tools that can continue learning and go forth and conquer. So hopefully you're trying to find places to interview and talk to people that are in the same understanding as that, meaning they know they're getting a junior developer who's still progressing in their skill set, and that you, like, believe me, we have a lot of interns that call them all and they come out of the CS programs and they've never used CSS. They don't know They rarely know how to use Git really well, right? Because that's not part of the curriculum. And it's not to slam them, they're really smart, but it just wasn't what they were trained in, right? They're really good at algorithms and they know Java, you know. But when you're making a React app, it's not as useful for some things you're doing. So like you're saying, what Joe's saying too, like if you have legit experience that's useful and you can hit the ground running and you don't have to be like, oh, somebody's going to hire me and then 3 months from now I'll be productive. In some ways you are really productive as soon as you get there. So maybe try to capitalize on those things too.
Thank you all.
I have a question, kind of related to that. For me, I'm doing a career switch too. So I've been a physical therapist and a yoga teacher for like 12 years or something like that, and so I am running into, you know, my resume. I'm self-taught developer, and my resume is literally all jobs in, you know, entrepreneurship and the healthcare sector. And then, you know, I have like some technical skills, and then my education is like, I have a lot of education and none of it is related to computer science or anything like that. And so I'm wondering what experience, especially if you have similar background, or if you've hired people that are switching careers, like how do you get past the, you know, scan of the resume where somebody looks at your resume and is like, I don't know about you.
I'll take a shot at it. I think it kind of depends on the place. I know if you're like at Colombo, we're pretty compassionate and we value a diverse team and diversity from all aspects. So like there's a dude from Hungary who is like a black belt karate that you know, his wife is like a pro bono lawyer, you know, like he's very different than the guy that worked on the team for 10 years that was a Marine and was very much like, this is the way we do things, you know. So we try to find people that are different than all of our current viewpoints. Because we know that's going to make us stronger to have that diversity and different backgrounds and thoughts and experiences. But I don't know if that's the case everywhere, right? There's a lot of times that's not the situation where I can't speak to it because I've not done it before, but I imagine a lot of it is kind of a good old boys club. Like, you know, oh, we had an interview with you and we liked you because you're a lot like us and you like the same jokes as us. Like, that may be a place to run away from. I don't know, it depends on your current values, but I know that for us at Colomall, at least, we try to look past those kind of things. Like if you're trying to do an internship, you're probably coming from a CS program. So it's very rare. Like Joe is the only person we've ever hired. No, there were two interns ever that didn't have like a CS degree at Colomall. And we have like, right now we have 5 or 6 interns, you know, for a team of like 12 engineers or something. It's kind of crazy. But when we hire full-time people, it's not in the same way because we know that we're looking for a skill set and like a team member really first, a person that can come in and help us build the product and move forward and make us stronger. Anyway, I'll stop talking, but it might not be that big a deal. I don't have a CS degree either. I have a degree in music education. Not relevant.
I've got a suggestion. Much of my career was in the telecom industry and the Navy. And you know, it's important to show it, but I would not show a page and a half of it or even 3/4 of a page of it. I would literally summarize the non-relevant jobs in one blurb at the bottom, healthcare industry, 2001 to 2015. And then up above, I'd have a little intro section that says, I've never been a professional developer, but here's what I've done to get me here today, and list all your Git projects and links to your Stack Overflow questions and answers, and show that you've been part of a community that you're not professionally employed in. And that way you're not fluffing them with your medical experience, but you're showing them that you're actively learning and progressing, and you have some online profile that they can go check out.
I know everyone hates cover letters, but I also think that's a really great opportunity to explain yourself and to give that feedback, but to start it off strong and say, this is why I'm in this industry. This is what I bring to the table. This is what I'm looking forward to doing for you as a company. And maybe later on, you can talk about some of the transferable skills that you have from, you know, the markets that you're coming from. But the cover letter I found is a really good way to make your case.
I actually have a question for anybody who had to like do a change in career or had to jump from a boot camp to like coming into this workspace. Is there anything you wish you knew before you started that we should probably know before we start like in our professional careers?
I think that so a little background about me. I was a drama major and then switched over to film. So not really using my my degree either, but I was actually a designer for 15 years before going into development. And I think that, I mean, I'd certainly dealt with imposter syndrome going into development. And one thing that I realized after getting my first development job is that that experience, while it may not have been tech related, there is definitely a lot of things that I learned from being a designer that helped me solve problems in development. Because basically what we do is we're communicating as developers. We communicate through code. We write code that computers run, but really we're writing code for other humans to read. So I think that if you have good communication skills, you're already halfway there. The other stuff, it's like you can pick that up, and you'll pick it up a lot quicker whenever you join a team, but you'll get there.
Also, thank you, Ryan, for answering. I was also a film major coming out of college, so thanks. I really appreciate that.
All right.
Yeah, and if there's any way to like make you don't lie about it. Don't be like, yeah, I was if you're a garbage collector, like I was a trash engineer or something, you know, like I wouldn't do that. But if you can make the experience that you have be relevant to what you're doing, you know, like I was a band director, which every time we had a concert, it's a major project. It takes weeks or months to plan. And I was the drumline person. So I taught, you know, like when you move percussion around, I don't know if you guys have been to a percussion concert, there's like 1 million instruments on stage and all of them are like the size of like a car, you know? So getting everything to and from everywhere, like logistics, I'm really adept at project management, you know, and that kind of thing. So I definitely leaned on that as part of my, that kind of transition. In addition to figuring out how to like what Ryan's saying, it's just problem solving at the end of the day, right? So if anything comes down to it, you're trying to take like this code and make it do this thing, you know, it's all written in this language. So maybe if there's any way that you've had experience doing that in any job, really, it's almost every job probably is problem solving at some point, I bet.
Yeah, I have one for in terms of something I wish I knew specifically with the job search. When we were all coming out of my cohort at Dev Mountain, we were all looking for that full-time position. Like we wanted that full-time position with the benefits and the perks and all of that. So we weren't looking at, a lot of us didn't want contract positions. We didn't want part-time. We weren't looking at internships. But my internship ended up teaching me a lot and was a huge reason that I got the position at USA. Now, who was that?
Oh, sorry, it's mine. Sorry.
Oh, So then with the USA position, it was a contract to hire. And again, that wasn't something that initially I wanted, but it ended up obviously working out greatly. And it was originally an 18-month contract to hire, but companies know pretty quickly if they want you on the team or not. So it ended up going full-time after 6 months, not 18. So I would say definitely don't overlook contract to hire positions, internships, part-time, because those could blossom into full-time positions as well.
Yeah, William put a chat that's saying most people that are looking for internships are looking for CS majors. That is the case for sure. And I mean, there's good reason if you think about it, because that's part of it's probably part of their degree plan, right? To figure that out as part of CS. I know if, like, I did an education degree, and if I wasn't able to do student teaching somewhere, then I could not have completed my degree. So, like, you know, that had to be the case. It wasn't like, oh, this guy has to come in and student teach and he's like a, you know, a film major. That wouldn't make any sense at that point. Now, that's changing a little bit. I'm seeing that. I know we're probably a little bit more like forward thinking at Column, but we have had multiple, like we just had a full-time employee start who was an intern, and he had the same thing as Ryan, where he was a graphic designer for like 10 years and he owned his own graphic design firm. And then, you know, he switched over to doing code because he liked the code side of his own business better than he did like the design part, and switched over. And he was not a CS person. We really liked him, you know, he like really stood out to us. So, I mean, some of that might be, you know, how can you make yourself stand out in that way too? Like Leslie was saying, maybe it's a well-written cover letter that's not like, oh man, I have a lot of advice on this. I'm not going to go too long, but I've done the UTD job fair a lot because we get CS interns from there. And I think the last internship we had open, the reason we have like 4 interns right now is because we had like 16 that made the final round because they were great. Because we had like 600 or 700 applicants for that position. It was for like an engineering team that has like 12 or 13 people on it. You know, it's pretty crazy. But that UTD fair, everyone will come up and hand you a resume, and you look at it, and I keep telling them, we'll go online and do this, but all the resumes look exactly the same, right? And all the cover letters look the same. So like if you can make that stuff stand out, then you have a little bit of a chance. So, and it does matter. I mean, I wouldn't say it matters for everybody, but when I'm reviewing them, it matters to me. I want to find somebody that's not like cut and paste, you know, copy and paste form letter. But anyway, any other questions about interviewing? I'd like to
have a comment about it.
Go for it, William.
Well, there's a really good resource I found out here. It's a member of Dave Ramsey's team named Ken Coleman. He's got some free PDFs on how to do some of these things, like, for example, like how to put a resume together and information you'll want to know about interviewing and these sort of things. It's pretty awesome, and he's people have used what he teaches to land jobs that they love too. So, and there's been lots of those stories. So that's also something I think people should check out in the job search.
Yeah, cool. I feel like we've had a lot of people over the last 4 years that were very much like me, and maybe that's because I started the meetup, which came out of a code school and wanted to join from a different career and get into this, right? So you won't find a better group of people to kind of have a good shared experience and have, like, you know, be willing to listen to questions and field all kinds of questions with you. So I would assume that you guys could reach out online on the Slack team or the meetup site and talk about it. I feel like I could probably go for another 24 hours talking about this. Just following up, because Joe was like, here's all this stuff. And it's like, oh, those are all great. We can talk about this all night long. But it's getting, you know, kind of late. So I'm going to start wrapping it up. Very thank you much to Joe. Thanks for coming out tonight and helping us all get a better handle on this stuff. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, it's always a pleasure. And like I was saying earlier, before the group started, before the meeting started, we do want like more voices from the community that are maybe underrepresented to come up and let us know how you feel. Like maybe somebody has gone through a bunch of interviews and they want to talk about it, or they want to talk about their code school experience. I don't know. Reach out to us and let's hook it up. We meet every second Tuesday of each month. So we'll continue to do that in our social isolation for the internet and the beautiful cyber that we all have here. Hopefully we can continue to find more people that are interesting and provide value to all the members in the group too. Yeah, so if you haven't joined already, there's all the meetup group events have a Slack team invite where you can just join the Slack group over there. And you can also, we have an open collective, and we do try to use that money a little bit to do some infrastructure-y kind of things like websites and whatnot. I did get a bunch of notifications from GitHub, like maybe a bunch of you did, that a bunch of things that on your repositories have had security violations recently on the node packages. So one of them was on the ReactJS Dallas website. So you need to get on that pretty soon. Somebody wants to help with that, it'd be good. It's open source. So anyway, we'll wrap it up now, and thanks for y'all for coming, and we'll see you in July. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Thanks. See ya.
Bye. Good luck to everyone.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks. See y'all.